Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV. Unfortunately, Joe Healy is feeling a little bit under the weather. He's on the injured reserve, but we are going to the bullpen. Maybe a little baseball metaphor, RIP Sun Devil season. Ralph Amsden, whenever there's something big story, we got to get Ralph's perspective in here. So he's graciously made some time for us back east. Ralph, thank you so much for coming on the show on this big day to break it all down.
I appreciate it. I want to point out for people who feel similarly how ridiculous it is that anytime there's big breaking Sun Devil news, you have to go to a private citizen with an English lit degree who lives 2,000 miles away, as if I have anything to do with anything. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this show. It is my favorite. Thank you for having me.
Well, the people have spoken every time that you're on. We see the Ralph spike on the old download chart. So, you obviously have a lot going on. Of course, the stuff you do with the Unafraid show with George Reister and College Football Apostles now, taking on the whole country and not just, West Coast football. A lot of good perspective. And so, of course, with the ASU 6-month saga of no athletic director coming to a close today, had to get you on. So before we kind of dive into some of the particulars and how this decision and promotion was made, just kind of your out of the holster gut initial reaction when you first heard the news that Graham Rossini was going to be the new athletic director at Arizona State.
Finally, I've been talking to a lot of people. We do these Sun Devil Spaces every single Wednesday night, and there seems to be a lot of pushback on the idea that Michael Crow would make an internal hire. And I was always a little bit confused by that, because anywhere where I've ever worked where the manager has been bad, it's never been the fault of the assistant manager or like the owner of the company or anything like that. And so the idea that an internal hire couldn't get this job done never really made much sense to me. And because this took so long, and because Graham Rossini's name was floated like 3.5 months ago by Peter Boyle in our Sun Devil Spaces, we've been like vetting him, talking to people about him for the last 3 months. Everybody that knows him thinks he's one of one. And so that, that I think that has to be factored in, is that there's a lot of testimony from people that have worked with him, whether at the Diamondbacks or with ASU baseball, that believe that he is special. But at the same time, I get why people are frustrated. I think the base level qualification for anybody when they're talking about a job with this much responsibility is experience doing the job, of which Graham Rossini has none. But then again, neither did Ray Anderson. And the qualifications, right? And we know that he has fundraised. We know that he's worked with ASU athletics. We know that he's worked with the Diamondbacks. I'm sure he's plenty qualified, but he doesn't necessarily have the relevant job experience. But at the same time, I just want somebody in the job. In the amount of time it took for Arizona State, because we had to assume that Doug Franz maybe knew something 2 months ahead of time when he jumped the gun on saying that Ray Anderson was out at ASU. So you figure it's probably about 8-9 months that ASU has known that they have to do something here, and 6.5 months where the position has been open, right? So, I just wanted it to get done. Washington made 2 athletic director hires in that time. Arizona made a hire. Missouri made a hire. Nebraska made a hire. Texas A&M made a hire. Why are we so different? What is so special about us? Is it just the NCAA investigation? And so that part of it got very, very frustrating, of just waiting to have somebody in position to move us forward. But I'm glad it's done.
Yeah, so we'll dive into that timeline here in a second, and some of the things that Michael Crow outlined as to the reasons behind that lengthy timeline. But when you look, Ralph, at what you wanted in the next athletic director, other than just somebody having the job and the title, no longer on an interim basis, but when you look at some of the key factors in today's modern college athletics landscape, and you look at what Graham Rossini has done in his career and some of the things that you've learned about him as you mentioned, over the last couple months, just kind of learning more, vetting him out a little bit, how many of those critical boxes do you think he checks off?
Well, what I was looking for was somebody who is a communicator, and somebody who comes off as it being a privilege for them to hold the position, not it being a privilege for us to be subjected to them holding the position. I think that's extraordinarily important because this is a big job with a lot of responsibility, and just like anything in life, it brings a lot more comfort when the person operates out of a sense of gratitude as well as a sense of urgency. I didn't feel either one of those things from Ray Anderson, and so someone who wants this job, someone who is willing to communicate with Sun Devil fans, Sun Devil athletes, and somebody who kind of is really grateful to be there. Doesn't take the position for granted. I think that Graham Rossini, as far as I know, has come off as a person who is going to communicate directly with Sun Devil fans a lot more, which is very important. And then the other thing is just the it's very obvious that a storm is coming or has arrived in college football. And that storm was on the way in, and the message from the top at Arizona State was, we don't need raincoats. That was the regime that we were under. And, so it's a really low bar to clear for Rossini to come in here and be like, raincoats are good. And that's what we saw. He talked about NIL. He tweeted about NIL today, first day on the job. And I think that's a really it's nice to know that we're not fighting the tide. The tide always wins forever. Arizona State is not above the tide. College football is moving in the direction where there's going to be revenue sharing. There's going to be student athletes participating in name, image, and likeness, and the lifeblood of college football is going to be an athletic department's relationship to its fans and with its fans. Arizona State took all of that for granted under Ray Anderson, with Dr. Crow at the helm, and it feels like Dr. Crow's changed his mind about NIL, which is good. You shouldn't have to be rained on for a year in order to say it's raining outside. But this is the situation we find ourselves in. And so it's just refreshing for somebody to admit the environment is what it is. My biggest pet peeve in rooting for any team is if at any point I feel as though maybe I know how to do your job better than you, and I should never feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way if I'm at McDonald's, right? Like I should never, ever feel like somebody who is getting paid to do something is beneath my ability to possibly go in and do that job. And there were times with Ray Anderson where it was just like, no, you like, why would you come out and publicly be against NIL? Now you see your players hopping into the portal directly after your comments, knowing that you're not going to have their back. You're not going to support them in their ability to profit off their own name, image, and likeness, but you're going to cash your paycheck. It never made sense to me. And so to have somebody in who I can look up to, because I am nobody and I know nothing. But, on the very, very, very big issues, it was extraordinarily obvious to 125 of the 130 Division I FBS schools the direction that college football was moving. It felt very bad to be an Arizona State fan and know that we were in the 5.
Yeah, it was definitely, obviously, as we covered during the latter half of Ray's tenure, some interesting comments, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, a lot of unforced errors by himself, and really kind of the entire athletic department. But, with Graham's background, hopefully some of those start to get a little bit paved over. And we'll talk about the Michael Crow aspect, and perhaps he's turning a corner, maybe opening his eyes just a little bit. But, on Graham right now, so much has been made that he is a Sun Devil alum, obviously a guy who has 2 degrees from the school. Of course, Kenny Dillingham, among many other coaches, among the 26 varsity sports as well. Just real quick, Ralph, how much value, if any, do you think being an alum is in terms of maybe doing a better job, whether it is as a coach or a top-level administrator?
Ownership. I mean, that's the assumption from the outside. is that, Kenny Dillingham is one of us, right? So in being one of us, he's going to feel a sense of ownership toward Arizona State. There was no doubt in my mind that Herm Edwards wanted to win. There's no doubt in my mind that Todd Graham wanted to win. With Kenny Dillingham, I know he wants us to win because he's one of us, and so that I think that's the benefit of the doubt you get off of the jump. And I don't know if it's warranted or not. Ultimately, it comes down to whether or not you can do the job. But I'm also not one of these people that believes that it has to be the perfect person. I think most people can do most jobs, and it's a wins over replacement type deal. Do you have somebody in position who is going to make the logical decision and be innovative when necessary, or do you have somebody in position who is going to be illogical in times where there's a great need for logic? And I think we're leaving a regime in which we had some illogical decisions made, such as bringing in somebody who hadn't coached football in 9 years, hadn't coached college football in 30 years, didn't know anything about recruiting, and brought them in with the assumption that the offensive and defensive coordinator wouldn't quit in the next week, which they both did, and so and obviously the pushback against NIL, the refusal to participate in social media, even though I know there's some nasty business on there and nobody wanted to hear from you anyway, but you earn that reputation by not clearly communicating over time. So, I think you want somebody in position that is just going to move forward, to act. It really is just a wins over replacement business. Most athletic directors in this country, I believe, are more than capable of doing their job. Don't make things worse, right? Do you have somebody in position who's not going to make things worse? We're going to give Graham Rossini the benefit of the doubt as a Sun Devil, that he's invested in more than just his own status as an athletic director, but that he wants it for his own sense of pride, the same as you, the same as me.
So, let's dive into the NIL sphere, because that is obviously such a crucial component. Graham said that the program is going to be 100% committed to NIL. Michael Crow, in the release announcing the hire, says athletics is the best way to advance the institution and to engage with the community. Now, I know that there's probably a segment, maybe even a large segment of ASU fans that might scoff at that phrase from Michael Crow. But do you think that ASU, after dragging its feet and kind of maybe being willfully blind on the NIL front for way too long, now is finally picking up, trying to make up some of that lost ground and make up some of that gap that has kind of just grown over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so. Arizona State is the home of the W.P. Carey School of Business, right? Like, this is like having a bug problem in a store that sells fly swatters. We have so many resources at our disposal. The thing that I always loved about the state of Arizona is it still very much feels like the wild, wild west. There is a mentality amongst the people that live in this state, that work in this state, that they're still trying to get theirs. Right? Like, they're still trying to make it. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in Arizona that I feel like should give Arizona State an edge when it comes to marketing their student athletes, giving them opportunities to provide value for businesses with their social media followings, with their personalities, with their interests and the things that they're into off of the field. The fact that we fell behind in this when we have so many advantages at our disposal never made any sense to me. I think that if Arizona State is focused on this, they can catch up in short order on the holistic end of what NIL is supposed to be. Obviously, you can't control if somebody's doing pay for play, and you have a booster that's dumping $5 million a year into a program, and that money is just being provided to a player to maybe do one or two appearances at a children's hospital or something like that. What Arizona State needs to do is it needs to set itself apart as a school where its student athletes provide value for the businesses that they engage in partnerships with. And so far, outside of Chase Lucas appearing in like a Breyer Law Firm commercial, and outside of everything that the Bourget brothers have done to actually bring value, like, telling people to show up at a steakhouse, telling people to show up at Burrito Express, promoting golf tournaments. Like ASU needs to educate its players on how they can bring value to businesses to make themselves attractive for those businesses to invest in them. They have every tool at their disposal. They have some of the best business professors in the country on campus. They have the ability. They don't even have to be innovative in this. They could just use what they have, and I think we could see some pretty incredible. But it's words and actions. To quote the great Herm Edwards, we're hearing.
So one of the things that really kind of struck me in being out there this morning and for the press conference, the introduction, was that Graham name dropped a lot of like local businesses and businessmen, and in attendance were a number of auto dealer owners and some of the prominent names, some big dollars out there as well. So it seems like maybe there's slowly but surely there might be some light at the end of the tunnel on the NIL space as well. One of the big things that I've seen kind of crop up over the last several weeks as Graham, his name's probably gotten more momentum, is a lot of folks that just are concerned that he's going to be a Michael Crow yes man. And those fans have obviously seen Michael Crow's attitude towards athletics and how the athletic program as a whole have gone in recent years. What is your concern level of Graham Rossini being potentially just a rubber stamper, Michael Crow yes man?
Here's my thing on the yes man deal. How on earth would an external hire be any different? At the end of the day, it's Michael Crow making the hire. He's the one making the hire. The assumption would be that anybody who he hires would have fealty to him in some way. Would it not? So that part of it, I never understood. Unless he is barred from being the one to make the hire, I don't think that you can escape that. So I don't think that Graham Rossini should be criticized or judged prior to the fact for potentially being a puppet of Michael Crow, when the assumption is that it's just because Crow made the hire. To me, that would be anyone. Right? We saw Michael Crow's attitudes on NIL and in defending amateurism in play in the things that Ray Anderson said. Today, Graham Rossini came out in favor of NIL with Michael Crow at his side. So, I mean, if he's a puppet, then everybody at Arizona State's a puppet. At the end of the day, your boss is your boss. You're going to have to achieve objectives according to what they want to see happen. If a puppet is going to be on the job, I would rather it be somebody who had 3 years to observe, make notes on what's effective and what's not effective, and move forward in a way that where they get to bring some of their own perspective into the mix. I would much rather, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, have Littlefinger as a puppet figure, someone with their own aims and their own goals who understand how to play politics, than somebody who's just going to be a yes man. And so my hope for Graham Rossini is to understand that his boss is his boss. What his boss wants to achieve ultimately has to be his goals at the end of the day. We're all subject to those things. But to understand the situation enough to be able to work with the allowance that they're given. And you have to understand, Michael Crow is pulling in a million different directions. Every day that he's not paying attention to what's going on with ASU athletics is an opportunity for Graham Rossini to put his stamp on each and every program. At the end of the day, the big decisions are going to have to come down to Michael Crow being involved, of course. But this idea that Michael Crow's even going to have time to be a puppeteer, ridiculous. There's a million other things going on at Arizona State. What you want is to have an athletic director who is smart enough not to put a coach on the field that ends up getting the NCAA involved over 36 months. The less that type of stuff happens, the less you're going to see Michael Crow around in the first place. So if you have a competent athletic director, there will be less opportunities for a puppeteer. So that's all I would have to say to that. is if somebody's going to be a puppet, I would rather it be a puppet that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, of all the, there's some concerns to this promotion, this move, just in terms of maybe perhaps his lack of experience or this, that, or the other. But for me, I agree 100%. The yes man, listening to your boss and doing what your boss says aspect of it really never struck a chord fully with me. So I think ASU fans obviously been through the ringer a lot, so perhaps there's a segment that'll be just looking at anything, just being an internal hire, even though, of course, many will be quick to point out he wasn't here during the infractions for the football program and such. But another aspect that has brought up a lot of attention is the timeline for this hire. Over 6 months since Ray Anderson resigned following the football win at UCLA. And when asked about that today, Michael Crow said that the NCAA investigation was a factor, but principally behind the scenes that they have been, in his words, reconstructing ASU sports to operate like everything else in the university, highly entrepreneurial, centralized support. And now, of course, that he mentions that they're going to be kind of on the back end, maybe this is creative accounting or whatever, shifting things under the university umbrella so that the athletic department is no longer operating with debt. When you heard Crow's words in terms of just this reconstructing ASU sports from the ground up with a new leader now in place, how much do you put in stock into this kind of reconfigured? Because it's almost like when I was listening to him, it's like, another new model. He even used the word model. Of course, PTSD kicks in of the new leadership model, but now, kind of structurally with some different things in place, a new athletic director in place. How much stock are you putting into this reconstructed ASU athletic department having greater success than we've seen the last 3 to 5 years?
Some stuff I feel like I can speak to with confidence. Some stuff I can't. I'm not in athletic administration, and I don't understand corporate speak all that much. I really do need things boiled down into applicable things for me and the life I live. If anybody's got a gardening metaphor they can throw my way, maybe I'll understand it a little bit more. But the truth of the matter is, from everything that I can see, and I was told, was that Arizona State is looking to maybe move towards stuff that like Vanderbilt is doing. And if anybody is familiar with Vanderbilt, they have a situation in which their schooling costs $70,000. It's in Nashville. It's very, very expensive. But they have a plan in place essentially where if you can't financially meet that obligation and you're an athlete, their policy is that nothing should stop you from being able to go to school at Vanderbilt. So let's take Vanderbilt baseball, for example. They have the same rules as everybody else. Only 11.7 athletic scholarships to be split amongst 28 players, 27 players, and then 8 walk-ons to make a roster of 35. But what Vanderbilt has done is they have recruited some of the better baseball prospects in America who were on the lower income spectrum. And then all of a sudden, their option is minor league baseball, playing for some money, in a tiny town in Texas, or they can go get a world-class education at Vanderbilt and have their $70,000 tuition paid for and essentially be a scholarship athlete that isn't actually on an athletic scholarship. And what that has done for Vanderbilt is they have 2 College World Series titles and 2 College World Series runner-up. I guess that's not a title, but they've been runner-ups twice in the last 10 years, since 2014. 2 World Series wins, 2 more appearances. And ASU looks at something like that and they say, if we can open up programs in which we provide financial incentives for our athletes to where the actual athletic scholarship comes off the books, then maybe we can use that for revenue sharing or other stuff that's coming down the pike. What's interesting is that might not end up being all that innovative, considering that House versus NCAA has them putting together a model where they're going to strip walk-ons completely from all programs, make everything scholarship so that you're able to budget. I just think collegiate athletics is going to be very, very, very interesting moving forward. And ASU can come out here and say that they're being innovative, but the truth of the matter is we might end up with a boilerplate scenario where everybody that's in the Power 4, Power 5, all 69 schools are operating under the same exact model in which you have 85 athletic scholarships to work with, no walk-ons. Baseball is allowed more than 11.7 scholarships, but they also do away with walk-ons. So it'll be interesting to see if ASU thinks that they can gain some edge by going out and being Vanderbilt, but the NCAA steps in and says, actually, we're just going to make this all uniform. What it's really going to come down to is resources. So what Arizona State should be focused on more than anything else, more than innovation, more than redoing the model of college athletics, more than trying to get ahead of something that is constantly changing, is to develop sustainable, healthy relationships with its boosters, with its fan base, with the people who actually show up to games. That needs to be what Arizona State leans heavily on, is developing a culture of support, because your aims might end up being something completely different. ASU just not that long ago had said that, we're going to let their aim wasn't just we're not going to go along with NIL. Their aim was that everybody who is technically breaking the rules of NIL to do pay for play, they're all going to get caught while we sit back and let them get caught. Right? It was like the people in March 2020 who were like, hey, I'm not going out to these crowded grocery stores where everybody's stockpiling up on toilet paper. I'm going to wait till it calms down. Then I'm going to go get me some toilet paper. Those people were wiping with their hands. And that was us. That was Arizona State the last 3 years, using banana leaves in our hands and whatever else because we ran out of toilet paper. So like we have to have a school that says that it's out of our hands, it's completely out of our hands, the direction of college football. That might end up being for legislators. But what we need is we really need like a healthy, holistic relationship with our fan base so that we have the support built in and we're ready to move when that direction is set.
I popped in my head, ASU wiping with our hands since 1885 t-shirt just popped in my head.
Well, it was rough to be like number one in innovation, but like doing the wait and see. We really were. I remember in elementary school, and maybe I'm dating myself, but like kids doing jump rope at recess, and there was always that one kid, while they're doing double dutch, had his hands up, was trying to time it, and then just never jumped in, and then the bell rings and recess is over, and you've done nothing, right? And that's what it felt like the last few years, and so be ready. I say be ready to act, but things change so constantly and consistently that this idea that we're going to be the one to have this vision of how we're going to do something, when the truth is that lawsuits could turn this whole thing into something that's very uniform, and our advantage would be found in our location, in our campus, in the opportunities that we provide educationally, in our relationships with the surrounding businesses in our community, and with our ability to engage the fan base and keep them excited about Arizona State athletics. That's really all we're going to have to lean on if everybody has to play
that
by
was
the
something
same rules.
that Graham really, a point that he hammered home consistently throughout this morning's press conference. And in just a couple of minutes, we'll be bringing you my one-on-one with Graham here on this podcast, and a little bit, and then at the end of this episode, we'll have the full press conference so you can hear. And I even asked Graham specifically about where ASU stands resource-wise in relative terms, especially in the key sports, and what kind of support from the school he expects to have going forward. With the relationships and the connections is just something that hopefully, as you mentioned, Ralph, a terrifically fertile ground that ASU can only really improve on into where they've been over the last couple of years. One other point before we kind of dive into those interviews is, speaking of interviews, is just that a lot has been made that Michael Crow said publicly today that there were 0 formal interviews. Now, there might be a bit of semantics in that way, because of course there were calls were being made, and perhaps it was one of those things where, like, hiring a coach, whatever. You don't technically offer a guy until you know for sure he's going to take it. So perhaps you don't may have an interview set until you know the kind of end results are in that respect. He did say that they considered everybody, in his words, in terms of consideration, but. What do you make of that? Because people have made a big point that over 6 months, you haven't interviewed anybody. If it's been this guy all along, why wait and all that? Is that just something? Is there any validity for ASU fans who are up in arms about that point to be up in arms about that point?
Yeah. The president of the university said that they didn't do their due diligence. Yes, you have every right to listen to that quote and be like, what is happening here? Yes. Why would you not be? Even first of all, I like this hire. I have been convinced for 2 months that if this is the direction that we're going to go, it's a pretty darn good direction. Okay. Um, I'm, I'm, here is how I've convinced myself that this is the right thing, right? Uh, when we were in high school, coming out of high school, there was a genre of movie that was very much like a coming of age type thing, where the main character would be like a womanizer and he'd have a female friend who was kind of bookish, and at some point in the movie she would take her glasses off and let her hair down, and the main character would be like, oh, she's been here all along, everything I've been looking. So like I genuinely thought, like in my head, I'm like, Michael Crow had a she's all that moment with Graham Rossini. Like
that's
like,
another movie poster along with Devil Wears Prada that we need to like mock up in the ASU style.
Yes, Graham Rossini, the Rachel Lee Cook of Arizona State athletics. But like that was the way that I looked at it. Like, okay, so Michael Crow, Dr. Crow, he deals with some of the most intelligent people in the world on a weekly basis. Like, he's going to know if somebody doesn't have the goods mentally or doesn't have the ability intellectually to hang with where he wants to take this university. So, you know, the way that I'm receiving this is over time, he realized that the right one was in the building all along. That's the fairy tale I'm telling myself, and that's what I'm hoping for the future, because, you know, the issue is, in movies like She's All That, the Freddie Prinze Jr. character dated around first. And we're missing that based on this quote, this element of like, man, she's been there all along, even though I've never met anyone else in my life. And so, you know, that is something that I think if you're an Arizona State fan, you have every right to be upset about. Now, maybe it was the truth, maybe it wasn't. I remember when Bobby Hurley was hired, there was a lot of chatter that Arizona State had considered Jeff Capel, who was an assistant to Mike Krzyzewski at the time at Duke. And Michael Crow, Ray Anderson made a really big deal in that 2015 press conference to say the only person that we offered the job to was Bobby Hurley. Now, it's very possible that there was some very serious semantics used there, and that they did have serious conversations with Jeff Capel. But what they want to convey to the fan base is they got their guy, right? And I think that it's possible that that's what Michael Crow was trying to do in saying that they had zero formal conversations with anybody in getting Graham Rossini. But you have to understand how that's going to be interpreted by your fan base, which is that you didn't do your due diligence. If this doesn't work out, that's the comment that people are going to go back to. That's it. And he's had his moments. He doesn't always know the temperature of the room when he's dealing with athletics. Sometimes he's a little too loose with it. Sometimes he's a little too tight with it. But I remember I was sitting by the New York Giants beat reporter now, Zach Rosenblatt. I was sitting by him, and he had come up from Tucson because he was working for the Daily Star at the time. And he asked about the hire of Bobby Hurley, and Michael Crow knew that he was from Tucson. And he said, hey, you know, wait a minute. We've been beating the pants off Arizona lately. And so like you all of a sudden in Bobby Hurley's introductory press conference, you have Michael Crow praising Herb Sendek. And like there's just been things that he has said in different situations where it's like, all right. Like it would be better for you to just be transparent. Trust that we can handle this information. You could have said, you know, we had a couple of people in mind, the timing wasn't right. And over time, we learned that you know, we have this undeniable talent in-house, and sometimes it just works out like that. Or he could have said, out of respect to everybody that participated in this process with an expectation of confidentiality, we just wanted to focus on the fact that we found the right guy for Arizona State, right? And then let people like me be like, oh my gosh, we interviewed Bill Belichick and Barack Obama. Like, we wouldn't give Barack Obama an honorary degree, but he might have been our athletic director. Like, then you open up the world of possibility to Arizona State fans, and then you make them think, wow, Graham Rossini beat out everyone? Because we did our due diligence could mean anyone. Anyone in the world, right? And so instead it's like, nah, this wasn't really that big of a deal to us, and you know, at the end of the day, this guy just made sense. So, Yeah, that's a tough thing to take for Arizona State fans, especially given the environment that we've been in for the last few years. We want to be able to have full confidence in our leadership moving forward. We don't want it to be a distraction. We don't want it to be a ticking time bomb. And so you do have to be careful and watch everything that you say around us. We're a little nitpicky. We're a little grouchy.
Yeah, I definitely took that comment, and there was like so many different ways, political speak, ways around that, and that really hit me as like Apple does streaming. That'll save the Pac-12 comment when we were talking to him at the Kajikawa practice fields back in late July, August, or whenever it was. So definitely, one of those things that, of course, it's more chum for the in the waters for ASU fans. But it's kind of as we wind down here. Had a chance after the press conference to talk with Graham Rossini for a few minutes and one-on-one, and I'll be sitting down with Graham for a deep, dive. Full sit-down series episode here in the coming weeks, but had a chance to talk to Graham one-on-one and get his thoughts on a couple of key topics. So here's my conversation with Graham Rossini. So Graham, obviously, the ASU alum, the ties of the program, the school, just like Kenny, what kind of, practical, maybe day-to-day value does that have, just having those deep ties to where you're working?
Yeah, I mean, most importantly, I'm a Sun Devil. And so, it started as being a fan of Sun Devil baseball, Sun Devil football on a totally different part of the country in the Gulf Coast, and had a chance to come to ASU, represent our baseball program, and just learn about this institution and this athletic department. But being a fan first helps me really understand the expectations of our fans and what they want from our athletic department. And I'm just so proud and honored to lead us moving forward.
So when you're obviously coming in at a transformative time for Sun Devil athletics,
Yep.
moving to the Big 12 and some of the marquee programs, coming off maybe some years where the results haven't been where anybody wants.
Yep.
What's on the top of your to-do list? What are the most pressing issues for you?
Yeah, most pressing is connecting with our fans out the gate. We want this incredible community support. The scale of ASU is so important. We have hundreds of thousands of alums that are in the valley here. Hundreds of thousands of more that are all over the country, all over the world. We want to give them a reason to plug back in because we need the support of the Sun Devils behind us as we move forward. And there's no doubt that football and basketball are critical to our success out the gate. We have incredible momentum in football and men's basketball, and we're starting to see it in women's basketball as well. It's no coincidence. We're growing in NIL. We've got relevance. We've got momentum and support through members of the Sun Angel Collective, through corporate partners that have been able to step up. And so we want to continue to nurture this momentum that we have in football and basketball specifically.
With that momentum, of course, on the NIL front, ASU was kind of coming out of a hole, but, as you mentioned, things are picking up as of late. Where does ASU currently stand kind of maybe relative to, some of its peers, maybe in the conference or maybe nationwide?
Yeah, well, it's hard to really know the context because information is sparse relative to NIL, but knowing that we've got the full strength of ASU behind us from Dr. Crow all the way throughout the university is critical. That's a unique advantage for us here at ASU where we've got this entire enterprise. We have all the corporations that support ASU aware of what we're doing in athletics and having a way to plug in. Mountain America Credit Union, Desert Financial Credit Union, Sprouts, Adidas, Santan Ford are a few examples of some partners that have stepped up over the last 5-6 months to help us really build out some good infrastructure in NIL. We're also lucky that the Sun Angel Collective has been a tremendous partner, locked arms with us, growing membership support and resources and opportunities for our student athletes. I think that's the most important point for our fans to understand is that NIL is not pay for play. It's an opportunity to invest in a student athlete, and it's a way to round out their time in college to build a professional network and gain some experience that helps them long after they're playing.
Dr. Crow mentioned that the 6 months has included kind of an overhaul restructuring of the athletic department, how it functions relative to the university.
Yep.
On a day-to-day basis, what do you feel will be the most impactful parts of that overhaul in terms of your job to elevate all of Sun Devil athletics?
Yeah, we're lucky. The leadership team of athletics is now very much focused on resource acquisition and building connections and building relationships that allow us to resource our head coaches and our student athletes. And Lisa Young, who's joining us as our deputy AD, has a great background in corporate partnerships, has a deep connection and understanding of ASU. Scott Nelson, who leads up our Sun Devil Club and has great relationships throughout the donor community. We're in contact with all levels of ticket holders, corporate partners, donors, and NIL supporters through our leadership team, and that's going to be a commitment moving forward. We're also lucky that ASU at this enterprise touches so many aspects of the world, and for Dr. Crow to say, I want the full strength of ASU behind what we're doing in athletics is profound. Nobody can argue with the trajectory of this university over the last 20 years, and now that he's bringing athletics into that focus of the entire university is a great moment for all of us.
So with the kind of the struggles of some of the more marquee programs in the last couple of years, and fans seeing the NCAA investigation, and perhaps a little skeptical maybe of an internal hire, just regardless of who it might have been. what would be your message to Sun Devil fans to that a new era might be upon them, or there's just light at the end of the tunnel, or good days are coming?
Yeah, I think it's important that our fans understand. I know I'm not a known commodity in the AD circles to the extent that matters. We don't know yet, but I know I've thought about ASU every day of my life since I was 11, and that started because of athletics. And so an understanding of, or a passion for a sports team that led me to an understanding of this university, I think that's my unique advantage at this moment in time. Is I've grown up around this university, I've understand how it operates, I understand the opportunity that's in front of us, and I've been back for about 3 years now in the athletic department, learning from what went well, learning from what didn't hit the mark, and how do we kind of make the tweaks that are important as we move forward. But just excited and proud to lead the Sun Devils. And I think, again, for our fans to understand we have Sun Devils leading Sun Devils, that's a really unique part and momentum for us at this moment in time.
All right, so some good stuff there from Graham Rossini, ASU's new athletic director. Stay tuned after the outro here, and we will be bringing you the entirety of the press conferences. You'll hear from Michael Crow, Graham Rossini, and of course Kenny Dillingham, who was celebrating the press conference took place, for those who perhaps haven't seen the footage, at the Pat Tillman statue on the north side of the stadium, and in the cafeteria right behind there, the football team was very loud because they were having a celebratory breakfast as the team posted a program record 2.99 cumulative GPA. So they were really happy about that, and before they there you go. Oh,
that's what I graduated with. A 2.999.
So that's what they were saying, and so Kenny's like, "Oh, we can just round it up." And I don't know if there was maybe some incentives in the contract, or whatever, because like Crow's like, "No, not yet." So I don't know. An interesting moment there. But so Ralph, as always, it's just such a pleasure to have you on the show. You're doing a bunch of great stuff, whether it's the Sun Devil Spaces, your stuff with George Reister. How can folks, if they're not already, keep up with all the great stuff you're doing?
Well, I tell you what, if you want to support me in any way, I'm super grateful for that. I'm working with George Reister, former Oregon football player, former Jacksonville Jaguar football player, and current media personality, Sirius XM show and everything like that. He has put together something called Unafraid Show. We're a few years into making this happen, and we're putting out content on YouTube every single day. We had a podcast called Pac-12 Apostles for the last 4 years. Obviously, Pac-12's gone. We're moving that into college football apostles, and I'm very nervous, and I'm very worried because I was very passionate about the 12 schools that we were talking about. I am worried that I'm like losing core memories trying to capture information about Kent State and Coastal Carolina, your Chanticleers or whatever they're called that you like. I'm trying to do my best. We're trying to put together an entertaining show. We just recorded the 3rd episode today. So if you could subscribe to Unafraid Show on YouTube, that would be awesome. Still doing Sun Devil Spaces most Wednesday nights on Twitter. It's just really awesome to get together with a bunch of Sun Devils and just chat on Wednesdays. That's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to hopefully producing some more Sun Devil oriented content in the coming year. Maybe some written stuff, because I haven't done that in a few years, and that's the thing that I like the most. But before we go, I do just want to say that the last few years have been really tough. Engaging as a Sun Devil fan, consuming content as a Sun Devil fan has been a grind, and I'm sure producing content covering the Sun Devils has been that way as well. I just want to say, you and Joe, you're the Devin Booker of this operation. I think that Sun Devil athletics is on the come up. I think brighter days are ahead. And you guys did everything you could to highlight so many student athletes at a time when not a lot of people wanted to pay attention to Sun Devil football, Sun Devil basketball, because of the things that came along with it. And so I just want to thank, I'm looking forward to this year more than any year in the last 5. And to be able to consume the content that you helped put together over the last 4 years has been one of the only bright spots. And so I just want to give you your flowers, give you some praise, because I think we're going to be moving in a really positive direction. And Speak of the Devils was good even when it was a bitter pill. I can't imagine how awesome it's going to get.
Hopefully back to those 10-win seasons when it was a lot of fun. But oh man, that means a lot. I mean, there's certain people when in this world, when the compliments come from them, it just hits different, and you're on that short list, Ralph. Thank you so much. For any folks out there who I can't endorse your content, your stuff, all the efforts that you're putting forth. Now covering nationally, high enough. It's just awesome stuff. So it's 134 teams, right? Because somebody else is coming up this year, right?
That's good to know. That's really good to know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about any of these other schools. I feel like I'm cramming for the bar exam, but I skipped.
I think it's going to be 130. Then like Delaware's coming up next. Good luck. Good luck with that. It's enough just dealing with just one crazy university. Make sure you stay with the Speak of the Devils on the social media side, on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Follow Joe at All Things Social at Joe Healy 42. Follow me at BDenny29. And Joe and I will be back next week as we take a dive into who Graham Rossini is and all the things that he will be bringing to this role as Sun Devil Athletic Director.
Excited today to bring you up to speed on where we are with what I said 6 months ago, give or take, and that was that we were going to take 6 months to do everything that we could do to position Sun Devil sports and Sun Devil athletics for the future, which meant getting ready for the new conference, moving into the Big 12, getting ready for the new world of sports with the expansions of NIL and all the other things that are happening, getting ready for all of the changes that are going on in college athletics, all of which are very, very complicated, positioning ASU's finances for sports in ways in which we are going to continue our tremendous progress, the new stadium, the new facilities, other things that we're doing. And so what we've been doing the last 6 months is reconstructing ASU sports, of which ASU athletics is a part, ASU sports around a new model, a model in which we're going to operate ASU sports, Sun Devil sports, like the rest of the university, highly entrepreneurial, centralized support, centralized facility support, centralized everything. And in that, Sun Devil athletics, then we were looking for and spending some time assessing the skill set of our internal staff, looking at external folks, but spending time focused on who could be the best executive to take Sun Devil athletics forward into the world ahead. We wanted to get everything past us, the NCAA investigation, which is now complete relative to ASU, launch ourselves on new trajectories in football and other programs. That's underway. Advance ourselves with building a financial structure in which there is no debt to the university for athletics like exists at other institutions. There's no financial stresses that we're not going to be able to manage going forward. Expansion of NIL, which we put in place the last 6 months. All these things going on. And what we found was that the best executive to lead us was one that was with us, that has over 20 years of experience in sports administration, sports business, sports development, sports marketing, sports management, is a Sun Devil through and through himself. Who's a very, very able executive capable of operating within the ASU system, which is high speed, highly entrepreneurial, highly driven by new ways of doing things, as you can see by the way that the rest of the university has advanced. And that's Graham Rossini. We're excited to announce his appointment as Director of Sun Devil Athletics. Graham's going to spend some time talking with you. You'll see his bio and his background. Tremendous experience here with the Arizona Diamondbacks, tremendous experience and work that he's done here at ASU, tremendous training in business operations and business management. And so we're very excited about Graham coming in and moving us forward into this new era. Graham's going to talk for a while, and then Graham will take some questions, and if you have questions of me, I'll take some questions. So, Graham.
Thank you. Well, thanks, everybody. Just excited that I'll get close to the mics a little bit closer. All right, here we go. Good morning. Just excited to be at this point in our process. Excited to get on the other side of the announcement. We have a lot of work to do and some tremendous opportunities in front of us. And what I'd like everybody to know is that I'm a Sun Devil, first and foremost. I feel like I've got credentials to lead us into what comes next, but out the gate, I'm a proud Sun Devil. That's always been a big part of my background and my DNA, and I can't wait to represent this entire community of Sun Devils who care so much about what we do here at Arizona State University. And thank you to Dr. Crow. Thank you to Dr. Jim Runn, who's been an unbelievable mentor and guidance over the last 6-7 months preparing for this. Thank you to the Arizona Board of Regents. I don't take this opportunity lightly. I'm excited to get to work. I'm excited for the challenges and more importantly, the opportunities that are in front of us. We have a group of passionate Sun Devils ready to take the charge on what comes next. And we have great momentum behind us. We have the full strength of this university. We're going to work to earn the full strength of this community behind us. And we can't wait to get to work. I do want to have a special thank you to 3 people who have been critically important in my ability to get to this point today. One is Pat Murphy, who I had the chance to spend 8 years with as a member of Sun Devil Baseball, currently leading the NL Central Milwaukee Brewers, a great Sun Devil as well. The next would be Derek Hall, who I had 13 years to really spend and learn from. Learning from a Sun Devil while in a different setting, but again in this market, building relationships in this community, having relationships with the businesses that we're going to lean on and rely upon. A great Sun Devil, and then obviously for Ray for the opportunity to come back home 3 years ago, and was able to learn a lot from Ray and Buffy and our time together. Wish them well in the next chapter and excited to build on the momentum that's in place. So I'm here for you all. I want to be responsive and answer questions. I know there are many, and excited to kind of get into the day and the work to come. So thanks for the coverage. You all are an important part of the conduit in getting our message out to this community of support and this passionate fan base. And so we know on short notice, everybody responded to be here today. It's an unbelievable setting here at Mountain America Stadium. This is the backdrop of a lot of our best moments when you think about how we use this setting to welcome our first-year students. The first experience they have as a Sun Devil is in this stadium. We want the football stadium and all the activities that take place to here be a big part of their backdrop and a big part of their pathway while they're here with us on campus. And then if we do it right, they're here to celebrate graduation at some point later. And so no appropriate or better setting, in my opinion, than to make this announcement and get into the work that comes next, the Mountain America Stadium. Pat Tillman looking over us.
The yelling is the football team in a celebratory breakfast for the highest grade point attainment in the history of ASU football.
I think I heard Kenny yelling at him as well. So a lot of excitement. Thanks for being here, and we're excited for the work to come. So I think we're going to do some questions.
Take a couple questions for Grant.
As a Sun Devil, what's it mean for you to have this opportunity?
I don't know that I've fully processed the weight of it, but I know just driving into campus this morning, started to get the butterflies for the first time. And we've been hard at work. We've been really working on the jobs that need to be done and preparing for what's coming at us in the immediate term. But the gravity of the moment is starting to weigh in a little bit as I'm starting to get reached out to from friends and people who share this ASU responsibility together. I've thought a lot about how everything good in my adult life happened the moment I came to ASU. And I think that's a really important part of my journey, is that my relationships, my friendships, my wife Allison, who's here, was a volleyball letter winner on a tournament team here at ASU. And as I reflected back, kind of understanding that ASU's been this backdrop for the last 25 years, and the best moments of my adulthood have happened here professionally, personally. We have 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, that are going to grow up as Sun Devils. And Dr. Christine Wilkinson gave us the book Protectors of the A, if anybody's seen that one. It was the first book that our son Rhett came to love and know before I even came back to the university. And so I'm just honored. I'm proud. I'm proud to be a Sun Devil. This place is enormously important to me. I can tell you I didn't necessarily seek out to become an athletic director. I was motivated to come back to the university and help Sun Devil athletics because it's been such an important part of my life and my opportunities. And so I'm grateful, I'm proud, and I'm just excited to represent all Sun Devils.
Graham, first of all, congratulations.
Thanks, Cam.
You've had a unique position the past few years. You've probably got to listen to a lot of frustrations from fans.
Yeah.
See it, experience it, kind of be in the weeds, and especially with your relationship with a lot of coaches. We've heard other athletic directors promise things. I guess, how will you be different than what you're hoping to take from ASU athletics?
Yeah, I sense it, and I see the opportunity. I mean, we all talk about the brand of ASU and how powerful that is and why it maybe hasn't necessarily translated over athletics. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but ultimately we're focused on what comes next. We're focused on relationships. The core of what we do is our head coaches and our student athletes, and that will always remain. And our job in administration is to find the resources and the connections and the abilities for them to have success. We have unbelievable success stories across our 26 sports. Our head coaches are all elite at their profession. We have 650 student athletes from all over the world that are choosing to come here. It's our responsibility to nurture their environment. It's our responsibility to make sure that they're plugged in, they're prepared, they're resourced, and they're connected in all the ways. And so, it's really getting back to basics. We're going to be focused on relationships. We're going to be focused on connections. There's no better way to emotionally connect to anything than through sport. And we happen to be in this incredible setting at Arizona State University with top flight athletic department, and we want to bring those things together. And so we want, as we mentioned, the full strength of ASU is behind us now more than ever. We know that's real, that's significant, that's a commitment from Dr. Crow and ASU leadership, and we want to utilize that to the best of our ability. And so again, focused on relationships, focused on connections, and rolling up our sleeves and getting to work.
Graham, congratulations.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah. You talked about you being a Sun Devil, and you talked about relationships. How much does you already being here and being here for so long and working with the D-backs and developing a lot of relationships along the way, how much does that help you, to hit the ground running?
Yeah, I think that's a unique advantage in this next iteration for Sun Devil Athletics. And I spent 13 years in Major League Baseball. Baseball's been a big part of my backdrop, playing the sport since I was 4 years old. And I think from 4 to 40 was connected to a team consecutively in that moment. And you learn a lot in that setting, right? And the modernization of college athletics and where it's trending, we need to be resourceful. We need to be focused on connections and corporate relationships and revenue generation to invest back in our student athletes. What's so unique and exciting about this setting for me is that we're not trying to satisfy shareholders. We're not trying to, build equity for an ownership. We're trying to reinvest dollars into our student athletes. And we have 650 people counting on us to enrich their experience. And so I do think being in the marketplace, having 25 years of history in the Valley, this is home for me. This is the longest place I've lived. Being born on the East Coast, growing up on the Gulf Coast, and then coming out here for ASU and never leaving. And so I do think that being in the marketplace with a deep understanding of our fan base, being a fan myself, being connected to the business community and our supporters here in the Valley, that's a unique advantage. And then alongside the deep understanding of ASU, this is a fascinating, incredible university, and it's an enterprise, and we have all of this ability to impact society and everything that we do, and the ability to understand what makes the university go, what the leadership is focused on, and how do we bring that into the athletic space is, no doubt, in my opinion, a huge advantage. Yeah, absolutely. We are 100% committed to NIL. And as Dr. Crow mentioned, over the last 6-7 months, really reinvesting our focus in there. We're lucky Tim Hovick is here, Santan Ford, Mountain America Credit Union, Desert Financial Credit Union, Sprouts, Adidas, and others that have stepped up on behalf of NIL. And we're lucky the Sun Angel Collective has taken ownership and really a leading voice in building NIL support across our fan base. That's an enormous partnership for us now more than ever, and we're locked arms with the leadership of the Sun Angel Collective. Encourage anybody watching and listening to join as a member of the Sun Angel Collective, and we're going to do this at scale, utilizing a membership model with the Sun Angel Collective. We're going to bring our corporate partners into the conversation as well, and we've got great momentum. And when you look at what Coach Dillingham and Coach Hurley have been able to accomplish recently, it's not by coincidence. These are elite coaches, these are skilled recruiters, they've got great networks in their respective sports, and they're showing that all things equal, and when we're reasonable and we're competitive in NIL, high-level recruits want to be Sun Devils, and that's a really important part of our journey. And so, we're looking at all aspects of how do we enrich that student-athlete journey. We don't need to lead with NIL. We want to be very focused on that. But again, we're selling education, we're selling quality of life, we're selling an unbelievable network. Coach Dillingham talked about it, a year and a half ago in his press conference of Sun Devils for life. That means something. That's a true mission for this department, that we're connecting to all generations of Sun Devils. And as recruits come to this space, invest in your time here, invest in the relationships, build a connection, because it's going to last long beyond their time competing as athletes. It's build a network. And that's the beauty of NIL, in my opinion, is we have an unbelievable metropolitan area. We have emerging economies all around us. We have incredible corporate support, just being a large city and a large, dynamic, fascinating university. We want to plug those entities and companies into NIL. A lot of our student athletes spend their entire life playing the game, their entire life with a chance to earn a scholarship and go represent a university at a high level. And that comes at a price for them. They're making a sacrifice. They're compromising their ability to have a high school part-time job or a college internship or do a work study or build professional development. And so when they graduate, they're relying on their degree and they're relying on their athletic intangibles to go propel them in the real world. It's a competitive job market out there, and we want to use NIL as a tool for professional development for our student athletes. And so they're building vocational training, they're building professional skill sets, they're building a networking connection. So when they graduate, they're able to use that full weight of this experience. Elite education, unbelievable competitive setting, and a chance to be an accountable teammate, a great communicator, etc. And then have this NIL background as part of their journey, so they're prepared to take on the real world. We hope they play professionally. We hope they have Olympic aspirations. We hope they get all those opportunities, but Mother Nature is undefeated, and we recognize that. And so preparing them for life after playing is an enormous focus of ours.
Unprecedented time in college sports, especially the class action lawsuit that supports athletes settled. So How would you describe the challenges right now, especially financially, for a college athletic department?
I don't see any challenges. I see nothing but opportunity specific here to ASU. And the beauty of our model, the beauty of our scale, the beauty of our impact across the enterprise positions us very well moving forward. And again, when you hear Dr. Crow talking about the investment that the university is making and will continue to make in athletics, the ability that we have to engage at scale, the ability that we have to connect all over the valley, all over the region, in a corporate setting, in a leadership setting, I'm excited for the path ahead. I think ASU has a unique advantage as we step into the new iteration. Obviously, these class action lawsuits are starting to come to bear, and we're getting a lot more clarity on what life for the other side of the settlement may look like. I'm bullish on ASU. I'm very excited about our position, our model, our foundation going into what comes next.
Graham, what about Michael Crow's overhaul of the way athletics is going to function gave you confidence in the vision, and was that important in taking the job?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a front seat view of watching Dr. Crow and the leadership team at ASU grow the profile of this university. I graduated in 2002, so I was just before that next iteration of ASU. I'm forever proud of my degrees. I've got an undergraduate degree here. I've got an MBA from WB Carey. The value of my degree has only accelerated over the last 20 years. And so, again, being in the marketplace, understanding how ASU has been able to kind of grow up and really impact society and be dynamic in research, dynamic in educational outcomes, dynamic in community support and societal change. That's important to a university. And again, we want to lead with high-end athletics, but we don't want to miss the opportunity to sell ASU and all the good attributes that come from that. And it's amazing what's happened at this university in all aspects of it. And the expectation, and Dr. Crow has been very clear to us, is that he wants athletics, and the leadership of ASU wants athletics to operate commensurate with the rest of the university. And I don't think anybody would argue with the quality of our degree programs, the quality of our research output, the quality of how we're impacting society. And so now we've raised the stakes for athletics, and we're expected. I like the challenges. I like the high expectations. I want to put our best work into the most important outcomes. And so I very much see alignment with the direction of the university, Dr. Crow, and the other leaders. And so that's a highly motivating factor for me taking a leadership role in an organization that's ready to thrive.
For the media, the fans, the supporters of ASU, the last 6 months have seemed like a long time of people wanting to know who's next, who's going to be the next AD. For you, who wanted this position, what was it like for you waiting to, and what's it like to finally say, okay, I can get going on this thing here?
I would have waited 6 more months for the opportunity of a lifetime. And again, whether it was going to take 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever that process was, I remember an early meeting with Dr. Crow saying, I'm not concerned or uncomfortable with any version of the process. I want to use this opportunity to showcase my skill set and my passion for ASU and how I feel like I'm uniquely prepared to lead this department. We have a team approach. We've got some great opportunity with Lisa Young joining our athletics department, Scott Nelson taking on a leading role, Christina Wambacher, who's going to lead a lot of important work within the athletic department, the rest of our leadership team, our entire department. We've been spending this last 6 months preparing and doing a lot of work. And not for me to worry about the process. My direction was put your head down, get ready, understand the things about the university that you may not be as familiar with, and be prepared to come out of this and lead with confidence and optimism and project that on the athletics community. So the process is irrelevant, in my opinion, to where we are today. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and that's what I've been preparing myself and excited to get ready for.
College athletics is such a resource-heavy game these days. Where do you see ASU currently positioned, and then what kind of support do you see from this kind of overhauled and revamped athletic department?
Yeah, obviously, we're focused on resource acquisition, and the structure of our staff moving forward reflects that. We have people with great backgrounds focused on business relationships, revenue generation, et cetera. We have tremendous opportunity. We've got this unbelievable stadium. We have Mullen Arena, we have Desert Financial Arena, Phoenix Municipal Stadium, Farrington Softball. We've got 4, 5, 6 sports now that have a chance to be great convenings of our fan base, and we want our fans to be plugged in. We want our fans to engage and be excited about what we're doing. We're going to obsess over our fans. I will gladly make that commitment on behalf of not only the athletic department but ASU. We're looking at that experience from driveway to driveway. The moment somebody leaves their house, they're on their way to campus for whatever they're here for, we want to be thinking through what are they experiencing as they get close to campus, what's that interaction like when they hit the parking lot, what's the warm welcome that they get as they walk into our stadiums and arenas, how are we obsessing over all the touch points on a journey. A lot of you know my background working in the D-backs and Derek Hall, and we're adopting that same fans first mindset. We will obsess over the people who obsess over us, and we're proud proud to represent our Sun Devils in that way. And so we will have highly competitive teams that are competing and representing ASU, I'm sure of that. But around that, we're not going to rely on wins and losses to build a community of support. We're going to obsess over the details. We're focused on big moments. We're focused on little details. And we want to make sure that our fans understand we welcome them back in. We want to, obsess over their journey while they're with us and make sure that we're celebrating that together.
So, yeah, we have a team event. We had the highest team GPA, 3.0 or 2.99. We'll round up to a 3.0 in school history. We'll round up, but it just kudos to the academic staff and the support that we get here for academics. It's bar none. It's better than any place I've ever been. And it's a reflection of this changing culture of college athletics. You've got to be able to change and adapt, which I know Graham will do a phenomenal job of. And then you combine that with the culture that we're building, and to have the highest GPA in this crazy time of college athletics is, in my opinion, shows a direction that not just the football program's in, but just the direction of ASU athletics as a whole.
Having said that, how excited are you for Graham, kind of being able to relate to him, being a Sun Devil, knowing how much it means to him to be here and stay here and be in this community?
Yeah, he's passionate about the place, and once again, college athletics is different now, and you have people that want to build it for the long haul, right? Because you can go to places and flip them and leave, right? Or you can go to places and build it, and those are two different models, and you got to be able to do that the right way. And with a guy like Graham who wants to be here, wants to build it the right way, with a president who's been here his entire career and built something special, I think we have a core of people that want to build this and want to do this the right way, and not just the quick fix that may be able to get it done now, but can actually sustain something over a long period of time. So couldn't be more fired up.
How about the commitment to kind of what you're involved in doing it, relationships and just kind of the investment into the program?
Yeah, and I think, this is about Graham today. This is an unbelievable opportunity for him, unbelievable day for ASU athletics to have a guy like him who's passionate about this place, take leadership. And that's what I'm excited about, is somebody that bleeds maroon and gold, somebody with the same level of passion that I have for this place, is somebody that I get to work alongside of and work underneath, is somebody that has that passion.
When did you first meet Graham, and what were your first impressions of him?
I mean, one of my first impressions was when he was closing one of the biggest deals, corporate sponsorship deals for the stadium. And I'm like, okay, this is a guy who gets things done. He's task-driven, and he gets things accomplished. And I think so many times there's people who talk well, people who give good speeches, people who can say the right thing, and then there's people who actually get things done. And that was one of my first impressions with Graham, was not only that he's a Sun Devil and he's passionate about the place, but he actually solves problems and actually closes deals. And I think that is something that excites me, is we're getting somebody that actually gets tasks accomplished, not just creates tasks. And there's a lot of people who create tasks. There's few who get them accomplished.
I guess you identify him because his passion for this university is much like yours.
100%. We clicked pretty much immediately, and we've been working close together for the last 6 months, and he's just once again, he gets tasks accomplished. He works together. Have everything I've asked him in the last 6 months happened? No. Because he's talked to me, we've had discussions, said, hey, this maybe is a better way to do it, and he's right. And I think that's what all I want, is somebody who's willing to challenge me, somebody who's willing to push the university to a different level. Are we always going to see eye to eye? No, we shouldn't. You shouldn't always see eye to eye. But you should always have the respect level that we're both in it for the same purpose, and that's to get ASU football, ASU athletics to the next step. And we both know it's coming from a place of heart and passion. And when you know you're working with somebody that has the same passion you have, you naturally respect them more, and you naturally want to listen to them and give them your ear.
Dr. Crow, can you better explain what you said about debt in ASU and
Yeah, a lot of athletic programs around the country, they borrow money from their universities and then they carry debt with their universities, and so we've eliminated all of that. We have built a structure now for finances which can weather any hurricane going forward, any tumult that we might encounter. We found ways. We built the Athletic Facilities District as a legal entity which generates the revenue to build things like this stadium. We've created all types of other financial structures that are going to allow ASU athletics to be able to advance. We came through the pandemic with no debt. We came through the pandemic with no layoffs in the university, no reductions in salary, no furloughs. So we've built a financial structure, and what's happened in the past was that athletics was considered a separate thing called an auxiliary enterprise. It's not an auxiliary enterprise now. It's in the core of the enterprise of ASU itself. And so we've changed the financial model that's going to allow us to have our athletic department focus on victory and success of our student athletes academically and athletically, and the rest of the enterprise is going to worry about the bigger financial issues.
So how does that impact decisions on spending, revenue generation, et cetera?
There's going to be revenue generation is still a responsibility of every unit within the institution, including athletics. So every unit, every director, every dean, everyone has to generate money, raise funds, build partnerships, find philanthropists that are willing to invest, generate revenue through participation, every unit. And so what it means then, therefore, though, is that we're going to have an opportunity for the athletic department to not be burdened by trying to carry the totality of all of its fixed costs. The rest of the university didn't have fixed costs that they had to worry about, but the athletics department did. We've eliminated that, restructured that in its entirety. So Graham, wherever you went, where'd he go? Graham and his team will focus on filling the stadiums, finding the best coaches, the best athletes, winning the games, producing great student athlete graduates, raising money, building NIL funding, building corporate sponsorships, raising philanthropy, but they won't have to worry about the core things that have drugged so many athletic departments down.
So Dr. Crow, earlier in the year you talked about wanting to streamline operations. That's why the process took 6 months. A lot of fans were questioning why the process would take 6 months if you're going to hire somebody internally. Why not give more consideration to external candidates? What would be your answer to those fans?
Yeah, well, so 6 months in the scheme of things, and we're trying to build a multi-decadal trajectory here. We're trying to build something for the next 20, 30, or 40 years. So taking a few months to reconstruct ourselves financially, to build our NIL presence, to change the financial model for the institution, to complete the NCAA investigation process. All of that needed to be done before we take this next step. So that's the reason for the timing.
And as far as that, not really considering external candidates wanting to hire from within?
We considered every possible candidate you can imagine as we're thinking about things. We had innumerable people present themselves to us, innumerable people that we already are aware of. I've been in this job for 22 years. I've interacted with dozens and dozens and dozens of traditional athletic directors from traditional type modeled programs, and what we needed was the executive that we've hired.
When you make a hire like this, so important, the relationships are important, especially relationship with you. Having known him and seeing what he can do, how valuable is that, knowing who you already have, you guys can kind of piggyback on what you've already accomplished?
Fantastic. I think I was calling him from my recent international trip, and in fact, I know he was. And so it's what we have in Graham is an executive who understands why the university is here, why athletics are such an important part of the university, why we have to work together as a team, not as two separate things, why this has all got to come together to build Arizona, to build Greater Phoenix, to build the Sun Devil Nation. He understands all of that, so we are in complete alignment.
When did you know he was the man for the job?
Well, it's a process. So you watch someone as they're moving through meeting after meeting after meeting, issue after issue after issue, and so Graham constantly stepped up to meet the challenge, constantly adjusted to the model that we were putting in place, constantly was contributing to the model, and that's what we were looking to see. Did we have someone that had that capacity? And the answer is we do.
How many candidates did you interview formally? You said you kind of considered all and people reached out, but how many did you actually interview?
0.
Got one more. Dr. Crow, you mentioned being passed the NCAA investigation. I understand there's a bifurcated process and there's an ongoing component to that, but are there additional things that you could say now that you weren't able to say previously as it relates to punishments of individuals from Edwards and others, and your thoughts on the determinations and the penalties?
Well, what we had was a great outcome. I'm not going to walk through every individual participant or what have you. We can have another conversation about those things, not for today. But we believe that the NCAA concluded that we did a great job identifying the problem, solving the problem, and finding a way to move forward. And our penalties reflect their perception of the job that we did.